love to welcome you to my DLC talk. So before I start with my talk, let me give you a quick introduction of who we are as an organization. We are an ideas and products organization, which is backed deeply by neuroscience of play and technology, and we also are in the non-technology, the offline space. But I think a better way to understand what we do is probably to first differentiate between gaming and gamification per se, because most often than not, when I talk about the gamification company, the first thought that it crosses people's mind happens to be that, hey, it's gaming. And the immediate picture is that we're the ones who are making these mobile games, and there are people constantly busy playing games on either on the laptop or video games on the television or on the mobile. Well, that's not exactly what we do. We take elements of that, but we are in the space of gamification, which is a science in itself. So what we do is we take the same immersive techniques of gaming, we layer that with behavioral sciences, neuroscience of play, gamification principles like octalysis, learning principles, and of course business principles. And our objective is to solve real world problems and build deep engagement, whether it is with customers or it is with employees per se. And that happens to be the topic of my talk today. A lot of times, in fact, when I was first approached for this particular talk, I was told that, hey, what is this experience that you can share with other entrepreneurs, with other leaders in the business space? And there's one thought that comes to my mind constantly, which has been consistent in the last 30 years of my corporate experience and in the last 10 years of working with, in an entrepreneurial experience working with large MNC organizations, is that the key lever to success and sustainable growth, the key lever to success and sustainable growth happens to be engagement. Simple. Engagement is the golden key to sustainable growth. And when I say engagement, I'm looking at it from a holistic space. First thought that you have when we talk about engagement is engagement with the employee. Sure, that is absolutely important. Equally important happens to be engagement with your customer. And that has to be the focus. And now how do you do that? I have 3 simple principles that I want to bring to the table today. One is make everyday fun, focus on engagement over experience, and third, build work-life integration. Now, all 3 of them are different. And why are they driven? Why are they different? And they're largely driven by the fast-changing demographic landscape, the technology landscape, and the generational transition that's happening. And it's equally important that we do this for our customers, and we do this for our employees. Now let's talk about each one of them, because I think each one of the levers, while it sounds very, very simple, and the first thought that comes to your mind is that that's something that what we do every day, but you need to start thinking a little more deeper into that particular space, right? So let's talk about the first lever, make every day fun. Now, the minute you think about fun, the first thought that comes to your mind is it's the games that you play, it's something that you also do. But that's not true anymore. And in fact, it's never really been true, because your deepest and your most treasured learnings have come when you were in a state of fun, when you've actually were having fun doing whatever you were doing. It's a very, very integral and important part of everything. It's actually a very serious business. Contrary to the word fun, fun happens to be a very, very serious business. And it has to be carefully thought out. It is the one that builds true engagement. It's only when you are actually having lots of fun are you truly, truly engaged in whatever you do. Whether it's work that you're doing, whether it's associating with a brand. Think about it. Think about the brands that you have associated with over the years. They are your go-to brands. They are the ones that you keep going back to, right? So why do you keep going back to that? Have you tried giving it a thought? There have been many competitor brands. You have experimented with other brands, but you've always come back to this. This has been the fallback brand for you. Why? Because in that journey of that association, you've always enjoyed yourself. You've been relaxed. You've actually had fun in that association. There have been moments of fun. There have been moments where it's possibly not worked for you, but the moments of fun are the ones which has actually ensured that you keep coming back. Similarly in the workplace, right? Think about in the workplace. Think about organizations that you've stayed with longer. Think about organizations which you have really strong memories of and really happy memories of. Those are the happy memories that you keep comparing yourselves to with the present organization or with any organization when you're talking about it. And for that matter, those are those moments, those powerful narratives that you have built in your mind and your heart are the ones that you're seeking in everything that you're doing. Why did that happen? That happened because in that association, during that period of time, you were really enjoying yourself. Look at the two ads that we put up. There is the Amul ad. Think about Amul as a brand. It's been there for the generation before me. My generation has grown up on Amul, and my next two generations are also coming up on Amul. Does not mean that Amul does not have a competition. It has extremely strong competition, but it just becomes a fallback because their messaging, apart from the fact that it's that utterly butterly delicious, has always been fun. It's moved with the times. It's always been real to the times. It's almost like the common man story. Similarly, from an employee perspective, there is that statement that I put up from Plato, which I think is absolutely powerful. An hour of play is worth a lifetime of conversation. Because when you are in a state of play, is when you're truly, truly engaged and you actually are contributing and you're also receiving. Now, where does this come from? And I think it's very, very important to understand why fun becomes extremely important, because it's built on the foundation of neuroscience of play. There is a deep science that goes behind it. And to understand this, let's talk about our brain, right? Because that's where all our functions actually are driven from. That's where it's happening. So our conscious brain, most often than not, is always in a state of resistance, fatigue, disengaged. Now, this is a study, right? It's very interesting. Our brain generally has about 60 to 70,000 thoughts in a day. And these thoughts are the neuron connections that are built. And you'll be very interested to know that almost 70% of these thoughts tend to be negative, unless or until you have programmed it. And that's the beauty. Our brain is like a blank canvas. What you program is what you get. But left unprogrammed, human nature makes it focus on the negative. Catch yourself driving in the morning. Think about the thoughts, consciously think about the thoughts that are running in your mind. And you'll see a lot of your thoughts essentially are in the space of the negative, right? It's problem focused. So what play does, and what neuroscience of play does, is it says that take that conscious brain and take it into the subconscious space and take it into the state of play. Now, how do you do that? There are two parts of the brain which are always constantly at work. There is the limbic brain, which sits at the back of your head, just above the knee, which is known for its giving out the threat response. And there is the prefrontal cortex, which is the small portion of the brain right here in the center of your forehead. Hindu mythology, it's also known as the third eye. So, how are they playing out? So whenever the limbic brain is active, and it comes active like this, it's called the threat response. And a threat could be from a physical threat. The threat could be from a conversation. The threat could be in any way. It's just that it's something that I did not like. I've been asked to do something different. I've been asked to change my way of working, change the way of my living. Threat response, right? Now, the minute the limbic brain is active, the prefrontal cortex shuts down. The function of the prefrontal cortex is where the entire withheld intelligence, knowledge absorption, and knowledge contribution sits. So the minute the limbic brain is active, prefrontal cortex is shut down. Engagement is limited, contribution is limited, absorption is limited. What play does is that it takes that subconscious brain into a state of play, suppresses the limbic brain. When it suppresses the limbic brain, it engages the prefrontal cortex. When it actually engages the prefrontal cortex and opens it up, it actually transforms into conscious behaviors. It makes it open to change, makes it solution focused, collaboration, ownership, accountability. Very, very important aspects when it comes to building engagement. The second lever that I'm talking about here is engagement over experience. Now, this is controversial. Does that mean that you do not focus on experience? Does that mean that you do not give importance to experience? Of course you do. It's not that you don't. But focus more on the engagement side of it, because experience is a very fickle partner. Most often than not, we spend a lot of time thinking about what is the customer experience, what is the employee experience. But we haven't really taken into consideration that while experience is almost an hygiene, there is always going to be a better experience somewhere. And experience can change. My experience today could be great because I came in with a certain expectation. And my experience tomorrow may not be the same because I came in with a different expectation, whether as a customer or as an employee, because I am a human being. And as a human being, I'm going to change. I'm going to look at things differently in the same situation, in a different scenario. I will look at things differently. Hence, my expectation of experience can change. So it's a short term. It's in that particular moment. But engagement happens to be a far more sustainable partner. It's a loyal partner, because engagement is not built on that one instance. Engagement is built on multiple instances. Engagement is built on knowing me as a person. So do you really know who your employee is? When I say no, do you really know that employee's aspiration? Do you know what the employee is looking at from a long-term perspective? Do you know your customer really very well? And I'm not talking about the mobile number and the email IDs, etc. But do you really, really know your customer? Do you know what your customer likes? What actually motivates your customer? What excites that customer? Right? And it's a build of multiple instances where you've actually looked at those different engagement levers. We call them the octalysis levers, the 8 core drivers as to why we do what we do. And once you've balanced all of those, and that's where true engagement is built. But that's a deeper engagement. Why do I say engagement is a loyal partner? Because engagement, when you have deep engagement, it actually allows you to make mistakes. So even if you do make a mistake, your customer is not going to penalize for you. Your employee is not going to penalize for you, because it's impossible to have 100% hit rate of great experiences. There are going to be those instances when the experience is going to falter. So when the experience falters, you need the employee or the customer engaged enough to look past it and say, hey, you know what? It's okay. It's happened. But that's not just look past it. You want the employee or the customer to come back and tell you that, hey, this could have been better. And that would only happen if they are truly engaged, if they truly belong, emotionally connected and invested in you, whether as an organization or as a customer. You have to look at building engagement over a period of time and the entire life cycle per se. And I'm going to use the entire gamification principle here. And it can be broken into, let's say, 4 life cycles, right? So the first life cycle, discovery. Why? Why you? Or why should the employee choose you? Why should the customer choose you, your brand, your product over anybody else? Right? That's very important. It's if the USP is a product feature, you have to understand that the speed at which technology is developing, the speed at which the world is moving, that USP can be overtaken very easily. Of course, it's very important to have that USP. But having said that, it's very important that right at that stage, people actually engage with you. So are you building engagement at a discovery stage itself? Now that engagement is something that you could be building on the back of the values of a person. It could be on a core need of a person. It could be on, let's say, it makes the person feel accomplished. So joining a particular organization is a sense of accomplishment for me. Great. So am I positioning myself there? Owning a particular brand, it could be a sense of accomplishment for me. Am I doing that? Or let's say my core driver happens to be, epic meaning. So my association of a brand is going to very largely depend on what are those brand values. There are certain values. Is the brand a sustainable brand? Is the brand supporting pride? Sure, I would love to associate with that brand. Same for the organization. How value-centric is the organization? If the organization is very value-centric, that's the organization that I'd love to work for, right? So that's discovery. Second part is onboarding. Very important. That's the second part of my experience that you go through. What is the engagement that you're building at the onboarding stage? Now, the decision is taken that, hey, I'm interested, I'd like to join, and I'd like to come on board. But the coming on board experience, is that a good experience? Am I building deep engagement in the onboarding stage itself? Am I getting to know my customer? Am I getting to know my employee at that stage itself, and really, really deep knowledge that I'm building? Am I making it easy for my customer and my employees to understand who I am as an organization and what are the benefits that they could get out of it, and how do I navigate my way through, right? Third is when I'm already on board and I am a customer or I am an employee, which is the scaffolding. What is going to keep me continuously engaged? Very, very important. What are those elements that is going to keep me engaged? And through my entire life cycle, right from an entry point till the time I reach a level of maturity with the organization or with the brand, my aspirations will change, my desires will change, my wants will change, my level of contribution will change. So it's very important that I'm engaged at each points of time. So am I focusing for both my customers as well as my employees to understand what is that change that's happening, and am I building deep engagement there, right? And last is the end game. Nothing is permanent. It's extremely important to understand that and keep that in your mind. Your employees are not permanent with you. Your customers are not permanent with you, which essentially means that we also need to focus on the fact, the sine curve. There is going to be a point by the simple law of diminishing returns that at some point of time, whether it's my customer or it's my employee, will start seeing lesser value in the engagement. But am I conscious enough to figure out that what is that particular point so that I can restart the entire journey of discovery there and start building engagement again? Now, it could be in a matter of months, in a matter of years, but that's where personalization is going to come in. That's where the importance of understanding at every stage for every customer, for every employee, what would be that point where the end game has come in? And how do I rebuild the sine curve then, right? Let's talk about the third one, which is build work-life integration. Now, this happens to be one of my favorite, because for the longest period of time, we spoke about work-life balance. But that time has suddenly gone through a massive change. And now it's not the time of balance anymore. Now it's the time of work-life integration, right? Now, the important thing here is for the generation, which is the Gen Z, as well as the millennial generation, the biggest transition is they don't want a balance. They want to see if their workspace and their personal space is in very clear synergy with each other and they are contributing positively to each other. If they are not, the engagement breaks. And that is the key. So I should be able to bring my personal space into my workspace and feel good about it and see the contribution. At the same time, the work that I do must contribute positively to my personal space. So the fact of the matter remains is it brings me back to the most important point, which is only when you're truly engaged, and you're engaged because you're having fun in the association, you're engaged because the organization or the brand or the product actually cares about you and is engaging with you and not just looking at giving you that one-time experience. You are engaged because you can see that the organization or the brand is able to contribute to you positively in your personal space. At the same time, you're able to contribute because you want to contribute, right? Only then are you emotionally invested. And being emotionally invested is an extremely important aspect. Keep this in mind. When you make a choice to see whether the people that you're bringing onto the table, are they financially invested or are they emotionally invested? Because only when they are deeply engaged, they will contribute to your growth. Otherwise, you're taking on a pressure to give a return. Return is important in both the cases, but it can't just be unidimensional. To sum it up then, I come back to that same point that I started with. Engagement is the golden key to sustain success, and it's built on 3 pillars. It's our ability to make every day fun. It's by focusing on those moments of engagement and building those deep engagements over experience. While, yeah, experience is important, but having said that, how are we finding those moments of truth when it comes to building engagement? And last, of course, is building very deep work-life integration, both with our customers and with our employees. That's it from me. I hope this was helpful. And I really, really thank DLC for giving me this opportunity to have this conversation with you. And before I finish, I think that's a very interesting one. If you think about the association with DLC journey itself, why do you feel a little more connected than most of the other associations that you're doing? Because what DLC has done, and very successfully done, is right from day one, made this entire association lots of fun. They've made it very relaxed, lots of fun, and they're constantly looking at ways and means of engaging. And all the best. Thank you very much.